everyone, welcome to Listen, Love, Connect. I'm Savanna Palafox, your host, and today's guest host is Sumari Fabara, or I know her as Somi. We will be talking about narcissistic abuse, what types of narcissism are out there, red flags you should be looking out for, cycles that narcissists go through, and what does it do to the recipient's mental health. Let's head over to Somi and find out.
Exceptional Heroes brings you Listen, Love, Connect. So we're talking about narcissistic abuse, and it's something that you're not really taught. Honestly, I wouldn't have known any red flags if I've met someone until our talk yesterday when we were preparing. So do you want to just explain what narcissistic abuse is and the types that there are?
So essentially, I mean, a lot of people are hearing this word or term more now than I would say even like 4 or 5 years ago. And basically, because there's such a spectrum of it when it comes to whether you have narcissistic personality disorder or you have narcissistic traits, which is two different things. So according to the DSM, it's only a narcissistic personality disorder that you can be diagnosed with, but they are narcissistic traits that you can present with. And so the comprehensive idea, keeping in mind the different spectrums of narcissism, is basically you could have someone that's narcissistic that's very self-absorbed to where I say the extreme, and that's where you're talking about somebody that's more overt. An overt narcissist would be someone that is not only self-centered, self-absorbed, and when we get to some of the red flags, they exhibit almost all of the red flags. So they're kind of in your face. When you think of an overt narcissist, there's no question in your mind that this person is a narcissist. It's like everything is about them. Everything is for their gain. There's a preoccupation with how do I go through life just for my benefit. And there's lack of empathy and even the ability to really feel some elements of remorse at times.
Okay.
So, but then if you go to the other end of it, you know, when we're looking at the spectrum, you have covert narcissists. So those type of narcissists are they're very subtle or can be very subtle. They can actually come off introverted. They could come off as if they have low self-esteem and those individuals tend to be the ones that are very good with the facade, where their public life and their private life are drastically different. So, and in my opinion, and just based on my research, covert narcissists are, to me, very more dangerous than overt narcissists. It's like when someone's an overt narcissist, you see their behavior, you know it for what it is, you can recognize it. And it's not difficult to convince other people that this person is a narcissist. So for example, Trump would be an example of an overt narcissist, very grandiose. And, you know, if not for him, you're like, he's the greatest president ever, and he's this and that. So everything is very big and loud and boisterous. And then the covert narcissist can be extremely charming in public because they don't want anyone to find out what they really like. And in private, they're just a nightmare. I call it the Mr. Hyde and Jekyll syndrome. So it's harder to get people to believe anyone when you're dealing with a covert narcissist, because they see what they present in public. And they can be very charismatic and very smart and all these different things. And could be accomplished and all these different things, but that's what they want you to see. But the moment you cross them, or the moment you are not on their good side, then you see the other aspect to them, which is, the destructive element of narcissism. So there's several, I think we came up with about
there's a lot
15 of them. And so I should say this, that there's a difference between someone being toxic and narcissistic. So there's narcissistic personality disorder. There's you having narcissistic traits, and then you being a toxic individual.
Yes.
And I say that because a lot of people may hear some of these red flags and say, oh, my mom, my dad, my brother, my spouse, my boyfriend, whoever has that, and he must be a narcissist. No, that's not what we're saying.
No.
No, that's not. Could that individual have narcissistic traits? Absolutely. Could that person be toxic? Absolutely. So what I normally suggest is that you want to look at the consistency of behavior patterns and the frequency, the existence of the red flags and the consistency of the red flags. Okay, so the first one is manipulation.
Yes.
And the reason why the next one we're going to mention is a little different. So I tell people all the time, I don't know very many people, even parents, that do not use for some form of manipulation at some point in time. That's not what I'm getting. And manipulation, for people that know, is anytime we are trying to control or forcefully coerce or bring about some kind of outcome to our benefit, or that we want, to the detriment or to the pushback of the other person, you are being manipulative. Okay. Now there's something called, the second red flag would be gaslighting. Now this is an extreme form of manipulation and is very often used by both covert and overt narcissists. So most narcissists, whether narcissistic traits or narcissistic personality disorder, will use forms of gaslighting. And gaslighting basically is they try to alter the narrative or the reality so that you doubt yourself. So if you're in any situation, I don't care if it's a parental situation, any kind of relationship, parent, professional, romantic, friend, whatever it is, and you're constantly in a situation where you know X happened, you know they said X, Y, and Z, but when you go to address it with them, it's like, I didn't say that, or you're crazy, or, you're too sensitive. There's so many ways that people gaslight, but the basic thing, foundation of it is they're trying to get you to doubt your memory and your recollection of what it is. So especially for people, I was in a situation where obviously you're not thinking you're dealing with a narcissist, so you're not documenting everything that's happening. And so every time something, well, I didn't say that. No, that's not what happened. And you're like, so you start to think oh my goodness, did I make this stuff up? Mm-hmm. So it increases your level of self-doubt that even when in the presence of actual physical evidence, you may even go back to the evidence just to make sure that your recollection of things or, whatever it is accurate. So that is gaslighting, that, and when you're gaslighted so much, you may even start gaslighting yourself. You may not even need the narcissist to gaslight you. You may start gaslighting yourself in whether really tangible or subtle ways. The third red flag, I would say, when you're dealing with a narcissist is the emotional manipulation or blackmail. So that's where the threats and the punishment come into place. It's kind of like, if you don't do this, then this will happen. So a lot of times, if then statements, conditional situation, transactional situations are often a huge red flag. When you're, again, not in isolation, but if you have somebody that's gaslighting you and using emotional blackmail on a consistent basis, there's a high probability you're dealing with a narcissist. And then we have smearing. That's when it's called like the smear campaign. So they go on this attack to make everyone think you are a bad person, or, just to kind of go to your credibility and your character. Yeah. And that, is often that at times I feel like on its own can be a huge sign that you're dealing with a narcissist. Trump was really good about this during his campaign. When the women started coming out with all the accusations, he would just go or use his flying monkeys. And because sometimes it's not even a narcissist that does it, his flying monkeys may be the ones doing the smear campaign. So they kind of just attack the credibility of the individual. And the part of the emotional blackmail is, let's say he knew that person personally, and that person confided in him any information, then that information is now twisted and manipulated to attack that person's character. So a lot of the women were, part of why all of this kind of just like went away is that the attack on their character and reputation is so abusive and so destructive that you can't, and it's coming from so many angles. It's coming from lawyers, it's coming from the narcissists, it's coming from the flying monkeys, that unless you have like a really good support system and people that are going to, tell you not to give up, even in the face of all of that stuff, you just want to like hide your head, because it just gets too much. There's an aspect of them playing victim. Yeah. Whenever you have someone, there's always a victim. Everybody else is to blame. I'm the victim. I'm the victim. I'm the victim for this. And this is because of this person that this happened. That's another red flag. At times, narcissists can become violent or threaten violence, but it's not all the time. But there are times where if you stand up to them, and it just gets to a point there, they can't control their frustration and anger, they can get violent.
So are they more verbal?
Oh, yes. It's more verbal, emotional, like abuse than like I said, it can't get to the physical abuse stuff, but from my understanding, research, and my experience, majority of the time, it's more the emotional, verbal, and mental abuse. Which takes us to another red flag. If you find somebody that's always verbally abusive, the name calling, the bullying, the belittling you, that is also a huge red flag. This is another one that I feel sometimes can stand on its own. That is, if you engage, I don't care who it is. Like I said, it could be a parent, it could be a friend, it could be a boss, a colleague. I don't care who it is. Any relationship you have where someone is constantly verbally attacking you and belittling you and bullying you in any way, you want to run. If you're able to, well, not able to, you want to do as best as possible to sever that relationship. The lying, that's another huge one, especially a pathological lying. Narcissists, they can't tell the truth to save themselves. And I'm not talking about, and they will consider them white lies or blatant lies or whatever the case may be.
Mm-hmm.
And before anybody goes there and attacks, like, oh, everybody lies every now and then. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about the sky is blue and they're telling you, nope, the sky is yellow. Or,
Wow.
I mean, it's just like, sometimes it's not, the things they lie about, you're like, why would you even lie about that? It doesn't even make any sense. And even lying in the face of like concrete evidence,
Mm-hmm.
that's another huge sign. So you're saying, oh, he did this and you have evidence, or she did this and you have evidence to show that. But their response is no. And you're like, look, and they're like, I don't know what you're talking about. No. So it's one of those things that if you come across individuals that are just very pathological in their lying, it could be a strong indication that they either are have narcissistic personality disorder or have narcissistic traits. Narcissists do not like to take accountability or responsibility. So if they do something, one of the things that you should not, if you're dealing with a narcissist, it's just, it's a waste of time and energy to confront them about things that they've done, because they will never take responsibility or accountability. And that's where a lot of the gaslighting will come in. And
I feel like them playing victim, lying, denying, and this one like all go together.
Oh, absolutely. And that's why I say that usually you can't say somebody's a narcissist just on one thing, because they all overlap. It's virtually impossible for someone that repeatedly doesn't take responsibility and accountability not to gaslight you or lie to you or try some form of manipulation.
Which makes sense.
The control, that's another big thing. And the control comes in again with the manipulation. It's all intertwined. There are elements of trying to control you in different elements of your life. So it could be physical control, emotional control. It could be financial control. A lot of people don't realize that, especially either, and I say man or women that work from home,
mm-hmm.
and somebody's like controlling, this is how much you can spend. This is what it has to be, and everything. And we just think, oh, well, I'm not working, so they're in charge of the finances. But again, if it's a relationship or a marriage or a partnership, there shouldn't be elements of trying to control anybody in that regard. Walking on eggshells is another huge thing. A lot of people will tell you that when you're dealing with a narcissist, being assertive is like a no-no. You can't speak up. You do everything in your power to try and keep the peace. So you literally anytime you're around them, you don't know, is this going to trigger them? Do I say this? So it's that whole element of walking on eggshells, and you don't know what to say or how to say. Sometimes they could tell you, don't say it like this, say it like this. And you say it the way they said it, and it's still a problem. So it's like, it's almost like nothing is good enough. No way is ever good enough. So you're kind of tense all the time. And that's why a lot of people that are in narcissistic relationships have a lot of anxiety, because that element of, is this going to trigger them? Is this going to be, you just don't know. And it's so unpredictable at times.
And with the control, do they control everything or only things that benefit them?
Sometimes it's both.
Okay.
It could be either or. Sometimes, a lot of times though, it's as long what is going to be to their benefit. It's always about them. It's a lot of element of selfishness and self-centeredness. So it's about them. But on the other hand, sometimes it could just, like I said, it could be control of everything. And then times it could just be, it could be even a tactic where you're giving some control here.
Yeah.
So that when they are excessively controlling over here, you're not alerted to it as a red flag, or you minimize it.
They're tricky.
So we talked about denying what you experience, which is a form of gaslighting or invalidating. Invalidation is a huge thing with narcissists. Neglect of withholding, whether withholding affection, withholding love, withholding money, withholding anything they can, being neglectful, forgetting birthdays or anniversaries or important things to you as a way to keep you in control. And so you're looking for it, or looking for that element, and they're purposely withholding or being neglectful so that you have to come to them to get what you need. Sometimes it's isolation. That's not a big thing. I tell both men, women, children, when you're in a situation when someone is isolating you to one specific environment or one specific anything, that should be of huge concern, because the question is, what do they have to hide? What don't they want somebody else to know regarding, whatever is going privately, within the home. And then one of the ones, especially because we just celebrated Valentine's Day, that I often I feel it's the thing that keeps a lot of people in narcissistic relationships the longest is the love bombing. So it's like on Monday, they treat you like complete trash. There's the belittling, there's the bullying, there's the everything. Once they need something or something is coming up, then the love bombing comes on. And they just, love bombing is when they just smother you with all what they consider love and affection. It could be in gifts, it could be in words of affirmation. We talked about this, about self-love. So think of all the 5 love languages. If they know what your love language is, they're going to lay it on thick. So if your love language is gifts, expect just lavish gifts. Oh, and it could be stuff like trips and jewelry and, all these different things. And the reason why the love bombing is so bad is because most people will minimize or disregard the other 14 red flags and elevate, oh, well, look, he flew us to Paris. Oh, look, the diamond ring he got me. Or he bought, 12 dozen roses for me. Or this. And I also often feel like in domestic violence situations, the love bombing comes out a lot. So it's like, I hit you today and, oh, I'm so sorry, it will never happen again. And that's when you find all these gifts everywhere. And so you stay, because for some people, it's like they become so attached to the gifts and the love bombing that they disregard the level of abuse that they're enduring. And then the other one that we didn't talk about yesterday, but should definitely, is the silent treatment.
Oh, what's that?
So silent treatment is where they go, like some people call it ghosting. Silent treatment is where they just go silent as a manipulative tactic to get you to come back. So let's say something happens and they're going to flip it and say, you're the reason. And so they've now done the gaslighting and invalidated you. Then they go silent. And so here you are with all these emotions and these feelings, and you're like nothing to, and they're not responding to you. They go, then they wait like a week or two, or sometimes days, and then they text you, or they call you. Or if you're married to them, then they start talking to you again to their benefit, or you have to go to them. Yeah. So then in order to break the silence, you're going to, if you find that you're constantly apologizing for even things that you don't even, you have no, you're like, what am I apologizing for this time?
Yeah.
Just an effort that they don't continue to give you the silent treatment, you're most likely in a narcissistic relationship, because that's part of the supply. It's like, I'm going to do all these things. I'm going to jack them up mentally and emotionally. I'm going to go silent. And then they're going to have to come to me, apologize, and beg for my forgiveness. And then the cycle continues,
And they have stages, right?
Yes. So there are about 3 stages of which we know right now. And the first one is, it's kind of I call it the love bombing stage.
Okay.
Everything is ideal. Everything is great. It's the honeymoon stage. Everything is fantastic. You meet them. So even if they're overt, when you first meet them, it's just glorious. Everything is glorious. Then comes the stage of devaluing you. That's when the mask starts to come off. And their true selves or their narcissistic self shows up. So then once they've gotten you to let down your guard in the love bombing, ideal honeymoon stage, then they're like, all right, let's kind of, let's do what we do, which could be the gaslighting, the manipulation, the lying, a whole bunch of, like all those red flags we mentioned happen in the devaluing stage. Then comes the last stage, which could happen, but doesn't always.
Okay.
It's the rejection stage.
Okay.
It's where once they're done with you, you're done. They're done with you and they move on. So some narcissists do that. They're done with you. They're finished. They're like, I'm out of here. I move on to my new supply and start the whole process again. Sometimes the rejection is what I talked about. It's not a permanent rejection. It's a temporary rejection with the silent treatment or ghosting you for a little bit, and then they come back.
And I was going to ask about that. So yeah.
So, but then it goes back. So sometimes you have the rejection, then it goes back to the love bombing, then it starts all over again.
So is it always in that order?
I haven't known. See, it always starts with the ideal honeymoon love bombing stage. I've never seen it where it hasn't happened in that order.
Okay.
It's possible. There's still a lot that we're learning about this particular trait and personality disorder. But even in my personal experience, I've never seen it where it happens like they reject, because if they reject you at first, you're not going to want anything to do with them. So they have to butter you up first, and they have to, and what I call mirroring. A lot of people are good about this. So they meet someone, and because they want you to like them and they don't want to show their trait, they mirror you. So everything you like, they like. However you are, they are. I call it is like it's like the mirror neurons. And so you're just like, oh, this person, and that's when they'll tell you, oh, you're the love of my life. you're the one, and everything is really fast. Everything goes really quickly, and they're mirroring you. And I call it nowadays when people tell me I felt butterflies, I'm like, are you sure that's what it was? Butterflies were an indication to tell you to run, because it's just, they mirror who you are. They're like, okay, this individual, if I pretend or put on a facade or a mask to show this person that this is how I am and I'm very similar to them, hook, line, and sinker, they got you.
And the perfect example of the cycle is Kanye West, correct? With Kim Kardashian.
Oh my gosh. So one of the things that is so disheartening, I should say this first, I'm not a Kim Kardashian anything. She's not on the top of my list. However, I am a strong advocate and proponent that nobody deserves to be abused. I don't care who you are. Having said that, watching the Kanye West, Kim Kardashian saga has been nauseating, because everything we just talked about, he has done. But what has been so nauseating and just troubling to me is you have a society of flying monkeys.
Yeah.
So I watch people that are like really speaking up. Some people, there's a guy, Sean King, he came out and he really spoke up. There are a couple of other people that are high profile that have spoken up saying like, listen, this is narcissistic abuse, period. They're not sugarcoating it, and they kind of broke it down. But then you have people that are like, I mean, he was just at the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
And people are like, and his music, he has something on Netflix, which a lot of people are going to support and watch. So for me, I'm like, here is a classic example. I mean, it's not even like subtle.
Yeah.
All the red flags are there. Everything is checked off. The cycle is there. 1 minute he's berating and devaluing her, then he's rejecting her, then he's love bombing her. For Valentine's Day, he sent her a truck. I thought it was very odd. I don't know if anybody noticed it, that it was a black truck with a whole bunch of red flowers in the trunk of the car as a Valentine's Day present. And I'm like, all of it was disturbing. And her having to come out to defend and say, no, this is what is really happening. And the way he just twisting the narrative, oh, she won't let me come and see my children. I don't know where their birthday is happening. And that's the real dangerous part about it, is you hear that. And especially as a Black man, you want to immediately, and as father, you want to sympathize. And sometimes empathize, depending on if you're a Black male and a father that, has been, has a lot of issues with your ex. And but the reality is, then you get the full story. And you're like, that's the issue. We never get the full story. So I applaud Kim Kardashian for being vocal, like, no, she's not taking this line down, and she's not playing the victim to his narcissistic behavior patterns. And even the thing, people are like, well, he has bipolar or whatever the case may be. And I'm like, narcissistic personality disorder is a mental health disorder. It's in the DSM-5 and the new DSM coming out in March. It's in there. So whether we say bipolar, narcissism, whatever the case may be, the recognition or admission that there is a mental health disorder does not excuse abuse.
Yep.
Period.
Yep.
So you telling me I had a traumatic life, or my father beat me, or my father was a narcissist, that's why I'm doing this, is not an excuse. We are in a society now where you can get the help you need. If that's your genuine need, you recognize that you have a problem. So with Kanye, a part of me is not shocked as to the societal behavior,
Yeah.
but it's also nauseating and just very troubling because his children are going to see these things.
Yeah.
Everything, once it's on the internet, it's, you know, people screenshot, it's there forever almost. It's in the cyber world. And I look at his daughter, North, and she's already, you know,
She's grown.
acclimated to, you know, social media and stuff like that. And I'm just like, these are not things you want your daughter to read, especially when she may know the truth.
So based off that, what is that going to do to their mental health, or to anyone's mental health was in a relationship or is in a relationship with a narcissist?
I also want, before I answer that question, I also want, because I don't want this to be one-sided and to make it seem only males are narcissists. Females can't be narcissists too. A good example is, I don't know what her real name is, Anna Scornskin or Anna Delvey or whatever. There's a Netflix series on her that just came out, and #1, and everybody's watching it and everything. And she was a classic narcissist. So it's not specific to males, because a lot of times we're quick to say, oh, it's the male. I'm like, no, not just males can be narcissists, females can be narcissists. We just have to look at the cycles, the red flags, and call it what it is, you know, name it. From a mental health standpoint, gosh, I feel, and just from my research, working with people that have been in narcissistic situations, narcissistic abuse is comparable to complex PTSD. Because especially if it's covert, it's like a trickling down of for a long period of time of just stripping the core of who you are and your identity. So for me, when I engage with people, you know, I have some clients that were raised by narcissistic parents. I have some clients who were in narcissistic relationships. And when I'm talking to them, everything they talk about sounds like complex PTSD. And a lot of those symptoms that you see in complex PTSD can look like anxiety, depression, sleep disturbances. You have flashbacks, you have nightmares. Some people even have digestive GI issues, somatic pain. You get migraines, headaches. Because it's a form of trauma. Body is reacting. It's responding. Because especially if you haven't healed from it. And narcissistic abuse, because a lot of times people stay in it, like think of a child that was raised by a narcissistic parent, and they were in that situation from 0 to 18. That's a long time.
It is a very long time.
Very long time. And if they don't even realize that that's what it was, then they go into relationships and go into their lives just with this level of trauma showing it. So recovery from that can be very long and extensive, and a process, just like recovering from complex PTSD can be, you know, a very long process. So, you know, again, most of the, you know, main mental health issues that we hear about and see, it can cause mood disorders. So whatever you think that somebody that just think trauma. Somebody can have anxiety, depression, even develop a personality disorder, become bipolar, whatever the case may be, even schizophrenic. All of these things can come about, which is affecting your mental health just from being in a long-term situation of narcissistic abuse.
That's terrible. Because they make you think you're crazy.
Yes.
So I could see
exactly.
all these things building up inside. And so then when they do see help, just things come out.
Yeah. And like I said, a lot of people aren't believed. Especially if it's covert narcissism. So, and unless you're going to a therapist that is trauma informed and has a good understanding of what narcissistic abuse, you may be saying all these things and even your therapist may not believe you.
Yeah.
You know, so you have flying monkeys, you have the narcissist, you have, it almost feels like the whole world is like, no, this is your fault and you are to blame. So everything that the narcissist has ever told you, you are now embodying. Like
which adds.
Yes, and you hear their voice. Your narrative is so negative and so destructive because it's their words and their voice that you kind of carry with you throughout your life until you get, the support and help you need. This was a very heavy conversation for anybody watching. And we just scratched the surface. We really did. We didn't really get very deep into it because you can't, it's not a one-time thing. So there's a likelihood that we may revisit this at a later time. But I should say this, that if anything resonated with you that was said today, you're seeing whether, again, I don't care what relationship it is, your parents, your boss, your colleagues, friends, partner, whoever. If you're seeing these red flags, a combination of them, if I know for me, one of the great indicators that I was dealing with a narcissist was, like, I would always say something is off. Like my gut was like, something just doesn't feel right. And that even just acknowledging that, and then, like I said, finding a trauma-informed, narcissistic informed therapist to work with, to help you with the process, finding a good support network of people that will validate your experiences, because sometimes just having people in your life to validate you can be tough. Sometimes the flying monkeys are your family members. They are the ones you're telling them, so, well, I never saw that. And I never, so it becomes, if I didn't see it, then it can't possibly be it. And that's one of the things that really, really affects people that are in any form of narcissistic relationship.
Thank you guys for watching. I hope you learned something. But wait, before you leave, visit and follow these Instagram accounts. Check out my website, exceptionalheroes.com, so you can learn more about my patent pending therapeutic device and to buy some Exceptional Heroes merch. See you guys next time, and always remember to listen, love, connect. Bye.